Hey, what's up guys? Welcome to Laratips. In today's video, we'll be talking about many-to-many relationship in Laravel. In my previous video, I have discussed about hasOne and hasMany relationship. So if you haven't watched that, I would highly recommend you to watch those videos. So this many-to-many relationship is a little bit more complicated than that of the hasOne and hasMany, but not that much. So when do we need this many-to-many relationship? Let's say there is a users and roles table and a user can have many roles and the same role can be applied to the many users. Basically, a user can be related to the multiple roles and a role can be related to the multiple users. So in that scenario, we need this many-to-many relationship. So to define the many-to-many relationship, there is a rule in the Laravel how to define the table name. It is not a must that you must follow that convention, but if you follow the convention, it will be easier to write the relationship. Okay, let's say we have a users and a roles table, and for that we need a many-to-many relationship. For that we need to define a third table, which is known as a pivot table. And for the users and roles, the pivot table should be role_user. So the naming of this role user would be combination of these users and roles table in an alphabetical manner and in a singular words. So let's say this is users and roles table, then the R comes first and U comes after the R in the alphabets. Yeah, so the table name should be role_user, and the role_user must have the user_id and role_id as a foreign key. Okay, now if I go into the code, then I have already created those tables. So I have created the role model. So you can see the role migration here. So I have only added a name field and here the role_users table. So here we have the user_id and role_id. I have also added this expires at extra column so that I will be able to show you how to store data when we have this extra field using the relationship. Okay, now if I go in the database, there are 5 users and there are 4 roles. But if I go inside this role_user, so there is no data, so we'll be adding the data using the relationship. Okay, now if we go in the documentation here, so let's see how to define the many-to-many relationship in the models. Yeah, okay, now let's go to the user model, and here a user can have many roles. So let us define a public function as roles, and we have to return here a relationship method. So that would be this belongs to many role class, like this. So we have returned a belongs to many relationship from here. So for a many-to-many relationship, there is a method known as belongs to many relationship in Laravel. So we have to return this. So since we have followed the convention while creating the table name, so we should not pass anything here in this other parameters. So if I show you here in the database, so what we can do is we can also pass multiple parameters here, but we have followed the convention, so we don't need. So if we didn't follow the convention, then we can pass the parameters over here. Let's say, so we have this role user table by convention. Let's say we want this table to be role_users. So Laravel will not know about this, so we can pass the second parameter as the table name. So we can pass it like this and Laravel will know about it. Yeah, and also the third parameter would be the user_id and last parameter would be role_id. So whatever we have here in the relationship, that foreign key would be in the last. So let's see in the role users table. So let's say we have this here user id as a author id, then we have to pass here author id. And if we had any other thing in here except the role id, then we have to pass here. But let's follow the convention. Now let me do all the changes. We don't need any of those extra parameters here. By convention, Laravel will automatically assume those fields for us. Okay, now we have seen here a user can have many roles, but a role can also have multiple users. So if we go in the roles, then what we can do is here public function, we can define the relationship like this: public function and users return. So the relationship name is same here, belongs to many. Now here we have to pass user instead of roles, yeah, because a role belongs to many users and a user belongs to more belongs to many roles. So here also we don't need to pass any parameters since we are following the convention. So you have seen this. Now how can we access the relationship? So it is similar to that I have shown in my previous relationship videos. You can just access it as a normal property in this model. So before that, let us see how to save data using relationship. So if we go here in the documentation and see here inserting and updating data in many-to-many relationship, let's go here. Now let me open the Tinkerwell here and let's see how to assign a role to a user. Now let us find a user with the ID of 1. So if I run this, we will see the user with the ID of 1. And now if we go in the documentation, so we have a relationship name as roles, yeah, and we can attach a role like this. So if we see here in the database, we have roles with the IDs of 1, 2, 3, and 4. We can attach a relationship or a role to a user like this: user roles attach, and we have to give the ID of the role that we need to attach to the user. So if I do it like this, and if I run here, it is returning a null, yeah. But if we go here and see in the database here in the role_user and refresh here, now you can see here it is attaching role with the ID of 1 to the user with the ID of 1, but all these fields are null, yeah. Why is this null? Because we haven't, while creating a relationship, we haven't passed here another extra data. So Laravel by default convention, it knows that in the pivot table there is a user_ID and a role_ID, but it doesn't know anything other than that. So for that we have to define it here like this. So what we can say is with pivot, and we have to give the names of the extra columns other than that of the user ID and role ID. So we have here expires at, and also we have this created at and updated at. For that, Laravel has a method for that. What we can do is with timestamps. So it will add created at and updated at. Here it will merge this, and we can also do similar thing here in the rows model. Now if I go in the Tinkerwell and if I attach the second role, then if I run this code and go in the database, and here let me refresh, now you can see here created at and updated at is filled, since it will automatically be filled by the Laravel, but the expires at field is still null because we haven't passed anything while saving it from here in the Tinkerwell. Now how to do that? So for that, what we can do is pass data as an array. So let us say we want to attach role 3 to the user with expires at to be now. So this is a carbon helper which will give us the current time, and when saving, the Laravel will automatically convert it into the timestamp. So now if I run this command here and if I go to the database here and if I refresh, now you can see here it is adding the current timestamp. So all of these are having the same timestamp. Let's say we want it to be anywhere, let's say after a year. Now what we can do is now add year like this. So to know more about this, you can learn more about the Carbon, for which I'll be leaving a link in the description below that like button. Okay, now if I do it like this and give it a role 4, let us assign a user the role 4, and that will expire after a year. Now if I execute this code and if I go here in the database, now you can see here it is adding a 1 year after it. So before it was 2020 and now here is 2021. So in this way we can save many-to-many relationship. So this is one way of saving. So whenever we add, let's say now here is a for role 4, yeah, and again if I run this code, then it will again add another row. You can see here it is again adding another row. So and the same user has the same role twice, so this is occurring twice. So for that we have another methods to store the data in the database. Now let's see one method first, which is sync, which will accept array. Now let's say we want to attach a role with the one ID 1 and the expires at will be now add months, let's say 6. Now if I do it like this, then it will save it will attach a role to the user with the ID 1, but it will remove all the other roles. So there will be only one role that will be attached to the user, and we have attached these multiple roles here. They will all be removed and there will be only this one. So if I run this code here, so you can see here it has said no new has been attached because the role with the ID 1 was already attached before. So it is not attaching a new one, but it will update this expires at field. Similarly, it is showing that it has detached all those roles with the ID other than 1, and you can see here updated is 1, which is this one. So now if I go here, all should be removed and we should only have this role ID 1 and this expires at must have been updated. So if I reload here, now you can see here the expires at field is filled, and this is null because previously when creating this field we didn't apply that with timestamp, so this is null here. So let me just copy it and paste it here. Okay, now this is how the sync works. So now let's say if we want to attach this user the second role, and if I say refresh here, now you see I'll just refresh here. Now you can see here the one role is again removed and we have only 2. Yeah, now let's say we don't want this behavior, we want to keep the previous roles and we want to add this along with them. Now what we can do is sync without detaching. Now we want to add a role 3. Now if I run this code and if I go here and refresh, both these should be here. Now you can see here both of these rows are available here. So the difference between attach and sync without detaching is that attach will always add a new row to the database table, but sync without detaching will look that if there is a previous row with the same role ID, then update that row, otherwise create a new one. So that's the main difference between attach and sync without detaching. Now let's see how to detach data from the pivots table or detach the roles of the user. That is pretty simple. So let's say we want to detach the role 3. So we can basically say detach 3. This is the ID, role ID. And if I go here in the data, first let me execute this, and now if I go ahead and refresh, so this row should be gone now. Now you can see here that row has been detached. Now if you want to remove multiple rows, then you can pass here array, and currently we have only this one row, so let's pass only that. And if I execute this code and if I go here, so this row is also now removed. So if we passed here, let's say 3, 4 like this, all those role IDs, then all those would also be detached. Now let us add some roles to the users. let's say we want to give the ID of 2 and 3 to the user 1, and let's say we want to give for the user 2 role 2 only. So if you see here in the database, so you can see here a user 1 has the ID roles of 2 and 3, and user 2 has only the role with the 2. Okay, now let's see the existence of the relationship. So this also works similarly that how we have seen in our previous relationship tutorial. So what we'll see is do is here user has roles get. What this does, it will return all the users that have at least one role. Now if we see here in the database, here we have 5 users, and among them only 2 of them have some roles. Yeah, so it will only return these 2 users with the ID 1 and 2. Now if I refresh here, now you can see here it is only returning the user with the ID 1 and 2. Also we have doesn't have. Now it will return all those remaining users who don't have any roles. So if I do like this, so you can see here it is returning all the users with the ID 3, 4 and 5, so they don't have any roles. Okay, now let's say we want to get all the users that have the role only 2. So if we go in the roles table, the 2 is admin and 3 is developer, and let's only find the developer users. Okay, so they have the ID of 3 here, and if we go here, the developer is only this user 1. Yeah, so now what we can do is where has roles, and we can do function query where role dot name is roles dot name is. So we can also do this only name here because we know that it is looking into the roles table. So let's see what happens when we do this. So get all the users that only have the role developer. Now if I do this, now you can see here it is only getting this user with the ID of 1, since the user with the ID 1 is only developer. So this ID 2 is for the admin. Now if I say admin here and if I refresh, so it will get both of these users 1 and 2. So you can see IDs 1 and 2. So you can see it like this. Also there is where doesn't have the role admin, then we'll be getting all those users that doesn't have any role as well. These users, these 3, and 3, 4 and 5 as well. And if we see here in the role user, so whoever doesn't have roles as admin means both of them have the role of admin, so 1 and 2 will not be visible. So if I refresh here, you can see here 3, 4 and 5 is shown here. Now if I say where doesn't have developer, then it will return all the users that doesn't have any role as developer, then it must return the 4 users. So now you can see here all these users don't have any role, so it is showing here. And also user with the ID 2 doesn't have the role of the developer, so it is also showing here. Okay, now let's get some users and let's see how to display them in the browser. Now if I go to the project here, let me run the project. Sure. Yeah, and if you see here in the home controller here, I have got all the users here. Yeah, users get, and I have passed those users in the welcome view, and I have looped through all the users, and I am displaying the username, and also I am getting the roles of each user, and also displaying the name of the role. Now if I open this link in the browser, now you can see here I am getting all these users and the roles of the user. So first user, this has the roles admin and developer, and this user has only the role admin, and all the other 3 users do not have any roles. Yeah, so in this way you can pass the users and get the role as a property from the users and you can display them. So now similar to that, what we have seen our previous video, if we access the data like this, then we'll run into the n+1 query problem. So you can see here it is getting all the users from our that users : get that command, and it is getting all the roles from each users, and it is running one query per user. So it is causing the n+1 problem. So it is this code will be executed, this MySQL command will be executed when we access the user arrow roles. So it's so easy to use using the eloquent the relationship that we will not realize that we are running into this such kind of n+1 problems. Yeah, so to minimize this n+1 problem, we can do is just eager loading or lazy loading, as we have seen before. So for that, what we can do is with, then give the relationship name roles like this. Now here you can see that it is running 6 queries. Now if I refresh here, now you will see here that it is only running 2 queries. So it will get all the users and get that user's ID and get the roles for each user. So it will only run 2 queries. How many users you get, there will not be any problem. It will always run 2 queries. So our application will be optimized. So this is the eager loading, and the lazy loading would look like this. Now if I go here and again refresh the page, then you will see here that we'll only running the 2 queries. So we have seen how to show the users and its roles. Now also let's see how to show that expires at field and the created at fields that are in the pivot table. So let's see how to show these fields. Now let us go here in the blade, and for that what we can do is here in the role name we can give it a dash and role pivot, and we can give now the column name in the pivots table, which is expires at. So whenever we call this belongs to many relationship like this roles, and there will be this pivot property available in the this related model. Yeah, and it will have all those fields like this: expires at, created at, updated at, this user ID, role ID. Yeah, everything will be present within this pivot object. So now if we do like this, we want to show expires at, and we also want to show role pivot created at. Now if I go in the browser and refresh the page, now you can see here, we can see this expires at and created at for all those fields. So we have seen how to show these pivots also. Now let's see how to show only the not expired roles in this blade. Now if I go here in this, so all of these are in the futures table, so they will not be expired. So let me add, let's say here 2020. So now this role is already expired, since we are currently in the October and this is in the April, and this is already expired. So we don't want to show this role to this user ID 1, and all those role they will be displayed because they are not expired. So let's see how to do that. So what we can do here is in the home controller, so we have currently loaded the roles here, so we only want to load the roles that haven't been expired for that particular user. So we can do here function query. So if we run any query here like where something like this, this will run in the roles model. Yeah, but now we want to run that in this pivot table. Then how to do that? So we can just say where pivot like this, and it will run this code in this pivot table. So what we want here is where expires at must be greater than current date timestamp. So this now will be converted into the current timestamp. Now if I go here in the browser, I should only be able to see this one role for this Ilwe Kamer that has not been expired. So if I refresh here, now you can see here, so the developer role is not expired for this gamer, and it is showing here, and the admin role is already expired. So if we go here and see the role 2 here, and here in the roles table, so you can see here this admin has already been expired and these two are not expired. So we are only showing the roles that are not expired for this user. Okay, now just before wrapping up, let me show you one thing. So before I showed you how to attach role to a user, so we can also attach or sync multiple roles for a user. So if I go here in the documentation, and you can see here, we can attach multiple roles for a user like this. So just pass them as an array. So, and we can also do this using the sync and sync without detaching. So we can pass the parameters in the same way like this to the sync and sync without detaching, and we can save or sync multiple roles to a user. So that's all about many-to-many relationship. And in our next video, we'll be talking about this hasOne through relationship. So that's it for this video, guys. Thank you for watching. If you want to see more videos like this, then please don't forget to hit that thumbs up button and also hit that subscribe button. So thank you for watching. Have a great day. Bye.